welcome to the deep dive. So think about your day, just so far. Chances are you've already had a moment where you were, like, totally glued to a screen, right?
Oh, definitely.
Or maybe the opposite, that feeling of frustration, really trying to pull away from it.
Yeah.
Technology's just, it's woven itself into everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this kind of wild paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's super useful, but also deeply problematic.
It really is. I think it's the defining challenge for a lot of us now. We're all sort of grappling with it, these amazing tools versus the constant, draining pull on our attention.
Exactly. And that whole conflict, that's why we're here today. We've been digging into the sources you shared. And our mission really is to get past just complaining that phones are distracting. We want to go a bit deeper.
Right.
We're trying to unpack how this relationship with tech evolved. What are the real hidden costs mentally, socially, even environmentally, which is kind of surprising. And then what can we actually do about it? What are the strategies for what the research calls intentional digital wellness?
Yeah, intentional is the key word there. The goal, I think, is to fundamentally maybe re-engineer how we interact with it all.
Re-engineer? How so?
Well, instead of just reacting to every ping and buzz, we need to step back and ask, how do we shift things so technology serves us again? So it's a tool we control, not the other way around.
Okay, that's a great frame. So let's start unpacking that. Where did we first start losing control?
Yeah.
Or is this the section 1? The trap of curated reality and FOMO.
Well, if you look back, it actually happened pretty fast. We kind of look back fondly on the early days of social media, but they really set the stage for the addictive patterns we see now.
I remember getting on Facebook. You couldn't just sign up, right? You needed a university email. It felt, smaller, more exclusive.
Kind of like a digital version of the campus quad, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. And that limited access, maybe ironically, made it feel kind of novel, maybe even safer.
Mm-hmm. And that novelty, it sort of masked how quickly the addiction could take hold. The psychology behind it, the thing driving engagement then and now, is basically a variable reward schedule.
Like a slot machine.
Exactly like a slot machine. You check your feed, you refresh. Most times, nothing much, but then, bam, a notification, a like. Something interesting pops up. That unpredictable reward. It's incredibly powerful for making you check constantly.
So even way back then, that constant checking wasn't really a conscious choice. It was.
Mm-hmm.
It was this behavioral loop being built.
Yeah.
And honestly, looking back, it feels like such a waste of brain power.
Totally.
The sources really argue that this escalated quickly, from just checking in to people basically living their lives online.
Oh, absolutely. We've all seen the extreme examples, right? Like the person at a restaurant who can't even take a bite.
Before the picture is perfect.
Yeah. Got to get the right angle, the filter, the actual moment, the taste of the food, the conversation, just enjoying it. That becomes secondary.
It's all about documenting it for later. The experience itself is sort of performed,
mediated through the lens of how will this look online?
And that performance, that mediation, that leads straight into what the sources call the big driver of all this engagement, FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yes, FOMO. And we need to dig a little deeper than just, worrying about missing a party. It's really this psychological comparison trap that gets set.
How so?
Well, think about it. You're having a totally normal Saturday, running errands, maybe just chilling on the sofa. Then you scroll through your feed.
And it's everyone's greatest hits.
Exactly. The amazing vacation, the new car, the big promotion, the perfect-looking family brunch, everyone's highlight reel.
Well, you're just there, comparing your average moment to their peak moment.
Right. And the sources point out something crucial here about how this is different now. What's changed from, say, comparing yourself to the Joneses next door 50 years ago?
Yeah, what is the difference? People have always compared themselves.
The scale and the scope. Before the internet, your comparison pool was localized. Your neighbors, your colleagues, people in your town. Now
it's global.
It's global and it's constant. You're comparing your real, messy, internal life, the stuff you feel, against the super curated, filtered, algorithmically boosted best bits of millions of strangers.
Wow. When you put it like that.
Yeah. Research on social comparison theory, specifically what they call upward comparison, comparing yourself to people you see as better off, shows a direct link between just passively scrolling social media and feeling worse about yourself. More inadequate, more anxious, even symptoms of depression.
So it's not just that the photos are filtered, it's the sheer volume and availability of this manufactured perfection that makes it almost impossible not to feel bad sometimes.
Exactly. Everything online is basically optimized to look better than whatever you're doing right now.
And that's why just scrolling aimlessly passive consumption. That's the real danger zone.
That's what the research suggests. You're essentially feeding your attention and maybe even your self-worth into an algorithm that's designed to figure out exactly what images or posts will make you feel that envy or awe just to keep you scrolling longer.
Okay, so that distinction, passive scrolling versus active, purposeful use, seems really central to this idea of digital wellness.
Absolutely.
So what does this mean for us? I mean, a lot of us do need these platforms for work, or we genuinely want to stay connected with people. How do we navigate that? The sources seem to point towards needing a clear purpose.
Yeah, we have to consciously shift away from that early, purely personal, almost reflexive use. Think about the difference between, say, scrolling Instagram endlessly versus using LinkedIn specifically to network for a job.
Right. Both involve presenting yourself online, but the intention is totally different.
Worlds apart. One is aimless consumption, the other is goal-oriented action.
The challenge, though, and the research mentions this, is trying to stay authentic while still being professional.
Oh, right.
Like if I'm an artist, I need to show my work on Instagram, but how do I stop it from just sucking up all the time I should be using to actually make the art?
That's the balancing act. And it comes back to intentionality. You have to have a clear reason, an active purpose for being on that platform in that moment.
So like the photographer example, using Instagram to research trends, find galleries, get inspired, that's using it as a tool.
Exactly. That's proactive. But if you just grab your phone while you're waiting for the kettle to boil and start scrolling through random stuff you don't even care about,
then the platform's basically using you.
the power dynamic flips. Absolutely.
So the takeaway is, don't join things just because everyone else is.
Yeah.
And be really picky about where you put your time and attention online.
Be ruthless about it. Your attention is finite.
Okay, so if having that intention is the mindset shift, then the next big piece is actually putting it into practice, right? Setting those boundaries, which leads us nicely into section 2.
Yeah, exactly. If section 1 was about seeing through the psychological tricks, section 2 is about facing the real-world cost, the physical and mental toll of always being connected.
And the core distinction here feels huge. Just being connected versus being truly present.
Oh, totally. We've somehow normalized this state of, what is it, continuous partial attention?
Yeah, that sounds right. You're physically there, maybe at dinner with your partner or watching a movie with your kids, but your mind, it's halfway somewhere else. Scrolling a feed, checking work emails.
And the sources really hammer home the consequences of that split focus. You miss things.
Like what?
Subtle stuff, nonverbal cues in a conversation, plot twists in the movie, just the actual moment itself. Your brain just isn't built for that constant juggling act.
I was really struck by that anecdote in the sources about people who literally can't watch a movie for more than a few minutes without checking their phone.
Yeah.
It's not even that they're bored by the movie. It's like their brain has been rewired to need those quick, tiny hits of dopamine from the phone. A long story or a deep chat. It starts to feel, I don't know, slow, unsatisfying.
It does. That constant vigilance, that little hum of anxiety. Am I missing something important? It's a low-level stress state. And it shows the tech is in the driver's seat.
So the first step to taking back control has to be defining and then communicating boundaries. And there are obvious pluses to cutting back screen time, right? Like finally getting some peace from the constant notifications, actually being able to focus on something.
Huge upsides for concentration and deep work, freedom from interruption. That's the pro. But the flip side, the con, is hitting that wall of cultural expectation.
The expectation that you'll reply instantly.
Exactly. If you set a frame boundary like, I don't check email after 6 p.m., you risk seeming unresponsive, maybe even unprofessional in some workplaces. Breaking that always available norm is genuinely hard.
Which is why it can't just be about willpower, right? It has to be discipline plus communication.
Yes. You have to do the work of retraining your own brain,
Yeah.
breaking the habit loops. But you also have to tell people, friends, family, colleagues, what your boundaries are and why, so they understand your response times aren't personal.
There was that great example about professional boundaries, the executive dealing with constant after-hours messages.
Right. That was a good one. She was feeling totally overwhelmed. So instead of just trying to answer faster, she set up an auto response after 6 p.m.
Just saying.
Something simple, like, thanks for your message, I'm offline for the day and will respond during business hours tomorrow. Basically setting a clear, non-verbal boundary.
Okay, that sounds smart.
Yeah.
But did it work? I mean, did people respect it? Surely there was pushback.
Oh, there was initially. It wasn't magic. A few people still sent urgent messages trying to get around it, but the key was she stuck to it. consistently.
She didn't cave.
Didn't cave. And over time, the team adjusted. They started planning better, thinking ahead, respecting the boundary. It actually improved things for everyone by forcing a bit more structure onto the end of the workday. It managed their stress, too, in a way.
That's powerful. Just that simple auto-response signaling, my time is protected now. Okay, so that leads to the next step, really taking control with specific strategies like a digital detox. But it's not just when you use tech, it's also which tech you use, right?
Yeah, the sources are really clear on this. We live under this constant pressure of platform saturation, maybe.
Yeah.
Every time a new app blows up, there's this feeling like you have to join. You'll miss out on something vital professionally, socially.
That FOMO again.
Exactly. But we have to push back and realize you don't need to be everywhere.
Like the example of someone deciding not to join TikTok.
Yeah. And finding it saved them just like enormous amounts of time and mental energy. One less feed to manage, one less algorithm to feed.
So it's about being selective, understanding what each platform is actually for.
Right. LinkedIn is for work stuff. Twitter or X is maybe for news flashes. Instagram is visual. You need to know why you're using a specific tool and stick to that. Be the curator of your own digital life.
Okay, so be selective. What else? Beyond just deleting apps, what are some really practical, actionable steps for being more intentional? The sources had some good ones, starting small.
Yeah, starting small is crucial. Like the idea of phone-free mornings.
Instead of grabbing it the second you wake up.
Right. Because checking it first thing immediately puts your brain in reactive mode, dealing with other people's demands. If you can carve out even just an hour, maybe until 9 a.m., to not look at it, you get to set your own agenda for the day first.
And the other simple one, putting the phone in a different room when you sleep.
Sounds basic, but it's huge. It breaks two big habit loops. That first thing in the morning check and the late night scrolling when you can't sleep. Just that little bit of physical distance makes a difference.
Reduces the temptation. Creates a buffer.
Exactly. And then, beyond just limiting devices, the sources talk about actively scheduling tech-free analog activities.
Like reading a real book.
Yeah. Or going for a walk without the phone. Cooking dinner without constantly checking the recipe online. Forcing your brain to engage differently, more slowly, more directly with the physical world.
And for people who feel they need a bigger reset, there was that story about the cousin who deleted all social media for a year.
Yeah, that was fascinating. Apparently, the first month was really tough. Like genuine withdrawal symptoms, intense FOMO.
Can imagine.
But after that initial hump, they described feeling liberated.
Liberated. How?
With this dawning realization that most of the stuff they'd been consuming, the daily arguments, the trivial updates, the perfect holiday snaps, it was basically just noise.
And the important connections.
They stayed. The people who really mattered found other ways to stay in touch. Texts, calls, actually seeing each other. The platforms themselves weren't necessary for the real relationships.
Wow. So deleting the platform didn't cut them off from people. It just cut them off from the endless stream of content.
Pretty much. It filtered out the quantity, leaving the quality.
Okay, so we talked about the psychology, the habits, the boundaries. Now, Section 3 gets into the skills we need to actually navigate all this safely and smartly. Digital literacy.
Yeah, and this goes way beyond just knowing how to use an app. It's about critical thinking, especially now with so much misinformation flying around.
Right. If you want to be digitally well, you have to understand how this tech works, its limits, and how to spot the garbage.
In a world where things spread instantly, being able to verify information is it's a baseline skill now. The sources recommend a few things.
Why?
Checking the original source. Who are they? Do they have credentials? Reading the comments, not just for agreement, but for smart counter-arguments, people citing other evidence. And crucially, cross-referencing. See if other different kinds of sources are reporting the same thing.
So critical thinking isn't just for essays anymore. It's like daily survival online.
Yeah.
You can't just passively absorb stuff.
You really can't. But on the flip side, we also have to acknowledge the incredible positive side of tech here. The way it's democratized education.
Oh, absolutely. The access to information is unbelievable.
Totally. Platforms like YouTube, all the online courses, MOOCs, if you want to learn something new, even complex skills.
Like fixing your car from a YouTube tutorial.
Yeah, or learning coding or photography. World-class resources are out there, often free or way cheaper than traditional routes.
And that's huge for people who aren't near big cities or don't have the money for university. It really has leveled the playing field for knowledge in some amazing ways.
It really has. But That access, that ease of information sharing is directly linked to the next big and often kind of scary topic: privacy, data collection, and safety.
Ugh, yeah. The baseline understanding here has to be your data is the product.
Right. Even if you're super private and hardly ever post anything, your behavior is being tracked. What you click on, how long you look at something, where you go, what you might buy, it's all being collected and used.
Constantly. Metadata, location, browsing habits.
Everything. It's being analyzed and monetized, which is why doing basic safety checks isn't paranoid, it's just necessary.
Like actually checking your privacy settings.
Yeah, regularly auditing those settings, being really strict about which apps get access to your camera and microphone, just pruning permissions ruthlessly.
You mentioned exploring alternatives too, like privacy-focused apps.
Right. The sources often bring up things like encrypted messaging apps. Signal is a common example.
And the difference is?
It's technical, but it matters. Signal uses end-to-end encryption by default. That means only the sender and receiver can read the message. The company itself can't, which is different from a lot of other platforms where even if it's encrypted while sending, the company might still store readable copies on their servers.
So it's about choosing tools designed to protect privacy from the ground up.
Yeah, choosing infrastructure that respects privacy by design.
Okay. But even with good tools, you still run into, well, toxic behavior online, cyberbullying, trolling. How do you deal with that effectively?
The strategy here has to be 100% focused on protecting your own mental health. Remember, a troll wants an emotional reaction. They want engagement.
So don't give it to them?
Never engage, ever. The advice is simple. Block them immediately, report the comment or profile if it breaks the platform's rules, and then just mentally move on. Don't dwell on it.
Even if you really want to defend yourself?
Especially then. Engaging just pours fuel on the fire and keeps you exposed to the negativity longer. Block, report, move on. Protect your peace.
Okay, shifting gears a bit now, let's look at the wider culture. The always-on culture and these generational shifts we're seeing. This is where work boundaries really seem to dissolve.
It's a massive shift. The sources use that comparison. Again, think about our parents' or grandparents' generation.
Or like the example of the dad who, when he left the office, he was done. No checking work email at home.
The concept just didn't exist now. The default expectation is often that you're reachable pretty much anytime. It's like this tyranny of the urgent, always feeling like you have to be ready to respond.
And that spills over into everything. Family time, sleep.
Yeah.
You never feel truly off.
Never. And that creates huge headaches for parenting in the digital age, because how do you teach kids good habits when we, as adults, are often struggling with the same thing?
So what's the advice there? The sources mentioned talking about it, right? Like narrative-based conversation.
Yeah, and modeling. It's not just saying get off your phone. It's explaining why you have a rule, like no screens at dinner. You know, this helps us actually connect and listen to each other, or explain your boundaries. I only check work email at these times so I can be a less stressed, more present parent the rest of the time.
Makes sense. And the modeling part is crucial too. Consistency.
Oh, absolutely key. Kids see hypocrisy instantly. If the rule is no phones at the table, but you're sneaking texts, the rule means nothing. You have to walk the talk. Healthy, intentional use showing them what it looks like is the best teacher.
Beyond the family, though, communication itself is changing, isn't it? We've got texting, emojis. Language is evolving fast.
Super fast. We're getting really efficient in some ways, like with abbreviations, but there's also this documented decline in our tolerance for complex information or longer attention spans.
Because we're getting trained by the tech.
Pretty much. All that constant rapid-fire stimulation, quick videos, headlines, notifications, it trains our brains to expect instant gratification. We get restless with things that take longer to unfold.
So it affects how we read articles, watch movies, everything.
Yeah, it's a feedback loop. Tech adapts to our shorter attention spans, which then trains them to be even shorter.
That story about the 60-year-old getting his first smartphone really drove that home. He was apparently panicked by every single notification.
Right. He found the constant interruptions incredibly stressful.
And his reaction, which we might see as extreme, actually highlights how unnatural this always-on state really is.
Exactly. We've just adapted. We've normalized a level of constant digital noise and demand that's actually pretty stressful, but we've gotten used to it. A newcomer sees it fresh and recognizes how overwhelming it is.
Okay, we've hit the psychology, the habits, the skills needed. Now, Section 4 looks at some deeper, more systemic stuff, starting with the strain on relationships and connection.
Yeah, this is that big paradox again, isn't it? Technology is amazing for keeping up with, like, hundreds of distant friends or old colleagues, those weak ties.
Right. You feel connected to more people than ever.
But it can simultaneously create distance in your closest, most important relationships, the ones right in front of you.
Like the classic image.
Yeah.
The couple sitting together in a cafe, both staring at their phones.
Tragically common. It's the perfect illustration. Physical proximity doesn't mean real connection. If you're in the same room but your attention is elsewhere, you're basically alone together.
Which is why those deliberate phone-free times, dinner, maybe the first hour after work, become so important for relationship health. You have to actively carve out space for undivided attention.
And you have to manage the social notifications too, especially things like group chats.
Oh man, group chats, blessing and a curse.
Totally. Great for organizing a meetup, terrible when it's buzzing with 100+ messages a day about nothing much. You feel obligated to keep checking.
So setting boundaries there too, like muting the really noisy ones.
Muting them is essential, or maybe just deciding you'll only check certain groups once or twice a day. Trusting that if it's truly urgent, someone will actually call you. You have to protect your focus even within your social life.
And this whole dynamic plays out intensely in dating too, right? The sources talked about dating app fatigue.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Driven by that overwhelming number of choices. It starts to feel less like looking for a person and more like online shopping.
Shopping for people. Oof.
It's the paradox of choice again. Too many options can actually make you less satisfied with whatever choice you make and more anxious about missing out on someone better.
So what was the positive outcome for people who got fed up with that?
Often it was deleting the apps completely and going back to meeting people in real life in situations with more context.
Like joining a club or something.
Exactly. The example given was a hiking club or volunteering, taking a class. Meeting someone naturally while doing something you both enjoy strips away a lot of that performative pressure you get on the apps. It prioritizes shared activity and actual interaction over just swiping profiles.
The healthier foundation, probably. Okay, now pivoting to something most of us probably don't think about enough, the environmental cost of all this digital stuff.
Yeah, this is a big hidden cost. The digital world feels so clean and invisible, doesn't it? But it has a massive physical footprint.
How so? The servers and stuff.
Servers, data centers, the networks, everything. Streaming HD video, running complex algorithms, mining cryptocurrency, just keeping everything running 24/7. It all uses enormous amounts of electricity, often from power grids that are still heavily reliant on fossil fuels.
So my Netflix binge has a carbon footprint.
Absolutely. The combined energy use of some of these global digital activities is comparable to the energy consumption of entire countries. And that's just running the stuff. Then there's the hardware itself.
E-waste.
E-waste is a huge problem. The constant pressure to upgrade our phones, laptops, TVs.
Even when the old one still works fine.
Often, yeah. Driven by marketing or sometimes planned obsolescence where things are designed not to last or be easily repaired. We chuck out millions of tons of electronics every year.
Which contain toxic materials, right? And mining the stuff for new devices is also bad.
Exactly. Lots of toxic stuff in landfills, and the rare earth minerals needed for components often come from mines with terrible environmental records and sometimes serious human rights issues, too.
So what can we do? This feels huge and systemic.
It is systemic, but individual choices matter collectively. The sources stress simple things. Use your devices for longer. Resist the urge to upgrade constantly.
Keep your phone an extra year or two.
Yeah. That alone makes a big difference in terms of manufacturing emissions and resource use, and support the right to repair movement.
So we can actually fix things when they break.
Exactly. Demand that companies make repair possible and affordable instead of forcing you to buy new. Choose brands that value durability. And even small things, like using power-saving modes, can help a tiny bit.
Okay. And there's one more point here. Digital hoarding.
Ah, yeah. It sounds funny, but think about all the digital stuff we accumulate. Thousands of photos, old emails going back decades, files we haven't looked at in years, apps we don't use.
It doesn't take up space on our desk, though.
No, but it takes up space on servers in massive data centers, and those servers run constantly, needing power and, critically, huge amounts of energy for cooling.
So deleting old emails and duplicate photos actually saves energy.
It's a form of digital minimalism, yeah. Regularly decluttering your digital life reduces the load, even if just slightly. Every bit of stored data costs energy, even if you've forgotten it exists.
Wow. Okay. That brings us to the last really complex piece. Battling digital anxiety and the need for realistic change. We have to talk about doom scrolling.
Ugh, yes. It's crucial to understand why we do it. Social media algorithms aren't trying to make us happy or informed.
They're trying to keep us scrolling.
Yeah.
Maximize engagement.
Exactly. And the most reliable way to do that, sadly, is by triggering strong emotions. And negative emotions, outrage, fear, anger, tend to be the stickiest. They grab our attention most effectively.
So the algorithm learns to feed us stuff that makes us angry or anxious, because that keeps us glued.
That's often how it works, yeah. It prioritizes high engagement content, which is often conflict-driven or alarming.
And the constant stream of news, especially bad news, just ramps up our anxiety levels.
Massively. The 24/7 news cycle means everything feels urgent and catastrophic. It can lead to feeling helpless and overwhelmed about world events, developing this sort of generalized anxiety or alert fatigue.
So what's the strategy? We can't just ignore the news entirely.
No, but you can manage how and when you consume it. The advice is usually limit it to specific times. Maybe check in the morning, briefly, and maybe again in the evening. But not constantly throughout the day.
And turn off breaking news alerts.
Definitely turn off all breaking news alerts. If something is truly world-changing, you will hear about it through other channels. Those alerts are mostly just anxiety-inducing noise.
Okay, so manage the intake. But finally, we have to be realistic about making these changes right. It's hard.
It's really hard. These habits are deeply ingrained, and they're reinforced by incredibly sophisticated technology designed to keep us hooked. You're not likely to go from spending hours online to practically zero overnight.
So small steps again.
Start gradually. Pick one thing, maybe no phones during meals. Track how it feels. Find someone to keep you accountable, maybe a friend or partner doing it too. And be kind to yourself.
Expect setbacks.
Absolutely. You will slip back into old habits sometimes. The goal isn't perfection. It's about building awareness, noticing when you slip, and gently course correcting. It's a process, an ongoing practice of improvement. #outro.
Okay, so let's try and tie this all together. The big theme running through everything we've discussed today seems to be intentionality.
Exactly. It's not really about totally disconnecting, because for most of us, that's just not realistic or even desirable. It's about connecting purposefully.
Right. Making conscious choices. We talked about seeing through the curated reality online, that whole FOMO trap.
And the absolute necessity of setting clear boundaries between work and life, between digital time and present time.
Developing that digital literacy, thinking critically, protecting your privacy.
And recognizing the wider impacts, even the environmental ones, of our digital habits.
The goal, really, is for you listening to become the deliberate curator of your own digital experience, not just passively consuming whatever the algorithm throws at you.
And remembering there's no single right answer. You have to figure out the balance that works for you, that supports your goals and values.
Which leads us to our final thought for you to mull over.
Yeah, thinking ahead. Look at where technology is heading. Augmented reality becoming more common, ideas like the metaverse, maybe even brain-computer interfaces down the line.
The lines between the physical world and the digital world are going to get even blurrier, aren't they?
Yeah.
Almost disappear.
They really are.
So the critical challenge for us going forward isn't just about managing notifications anymore. It's much bigger. It's asking, how do we hold on to our core humanity, our ability to focus, to connect deeply, to appreciate the tangible world?
When these incredibly immersive technologies become the everyday norm, how do we ensure tech continues to serve us and doesn't just completely redefine what it means to be human?
That's the big question to keep in mind.
Indeed. Until next time, keep questioning your consumption. And remember, your attention is probably your most valuable resource. Use it wisely.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we really try to get under the skin of complex topics, break them down, and hopefully leave you feeling genuinely well-informed.
And today, we're tackling something huge, something that's woven into the very fabric of our daily lives. Technology.
Yeah, the platforms, the devices,
Yeah.
they connect us, they empower us in so many ways, but, and this is the big but, they also seem to be increasingly, well, controlling us.
It's a conversation we absolutely need to have. We've gone through a ton of research for this one, looking at everything from, the psychological tricks used to keep you scrolling, right up to the massive, often invisible impacts that this hyperconnectivity is having on society and, frankly, the planet.
So our mission today is pretty focused. We need to understand how this tech is designed, often deliberately, to grab our attention.
Right.
What are the costs, personally, socially, and maybe most importantly, what can we actually do about it? Where's our power to take back some control over our own time and our mental space.
And I think if we're talking about control, the place to start has to be that first moment of the day. The moment when, for billions of us, the battle for attention is basically lost before it's even begun.
Ah, yes. The morning phone check. Before your feet even hit the floor.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I was totally guilty of this for years. It's just felt necessary. Like, how else do you start the day?
Exactly. But that necessary feeling, that's the design working on you. When you grab that phone first thing, you're immediately, instantly put into reactive mode.
Reactive mode. Explain that a bit more.
Well, instead of setting your own intentions for the day, thinking about what you want to accomplish, you're immediately hit with notifications, emails, social media feeds.
Right. Other people's agendas.
Precisely. Or worse, algorithmic agendas designed to keep you hooked. You're letting the outside world flood your brain before you've even had a chance to, find your own center.
And that just sets a negative tone, doesn't it? You're already behind, already responding, not initiating for the whole rest of the day.
It's a really powerful psychological loop. And the simplest fix, according to pretty much all the behavioral research, sounds almost too simple, maybe even a bit Luddite to some.
Which is?
Physical separation. Just get the phone out of the bedroom entirely overnight.
Okay, but hang on. What about the alarm clock? So many people use their phone for that.
Yeah, that's the common objection.
Right.
Look, buy an old school alarm clock. They cost, what, $10? It's a tiny investment for a potentially huge return in terms of mental clarity.
So creating that physical barrier forces a different morning routine.
It forces a pause. It forces you to wake up into your space, your silence, your thoughts, not immediately into the digital noise. That boundary, that little bit of friction, it's critical.
That simple step, regaining that initial control, it really highlights the core issue, doesn't it? That urge to check, that reflex, it wasn't an accident. It was the goal of the design.
Exactly. Which brings us neatly into our first big area today. Okay, This is absolutely fundamental. If you find yourself struggling to put your phone down, or you lose hours scrolling without meaning to, it's crucial to understand this isn't just about your personal willpower failing.
Right. It feels like a personal failure, but it's not quite that simple.
Not at all. We're all navigating these digital environments that have been meticulously, scientifically crafted by huge teams, engineers, psychologists, neuroscientists, whose their explicit job is to maximize your engagement time, keep you hooked.
So we're not just fighting our own impulses. We're up against millions of dollars in R&D aimed squarely at our attention spans.
Precisely. You're in an intentionally designed asymmetric battle, and one of the clearest examples where you can see this evolution of addictive design is in gaming.
Yeah, gaming's come a long way from, Pac-Man or Tetris.
Oh, completely. We're talking about incredibly complex, persistent online worlds now.
Yeah.
MMORPGs, MOBAs, these are places with real social structures, real economies sometimes, real relationships forming.
And there are benefits, right? Problem solving, teamwork.
Absolutely. Real cognitive skills are developed.
Yeah.
But the flip side is that the mechanisms to keep players playing are so refined, so powerful, that the World Health Organization actually officially recognizes gaming disorder.
Wow. Just that classification.
Yeah.
That says a lot. The sources we looked at had some pretty harrowing stories. People losing jobs, relationships falling apart, basic hygiene going out the window.
Yeah, neglecting sleep, food, just because they couldn't step away from the game. We heard one really concerning anecdote about someone's cousin.
Oh, yeah.
At his lowest point, he was playing for 16 hours a day, maybe more, routinely.
15 hours. That's more than a full-time job plus overtime.
It got so bad his family had to stage a proper intervention. But what really struck me was what happened after, when they managed to get him away from it.
Withdrawal?
Yeah, genuine textbook withdrawal symptoms. Intense anxiety, irritability, couldn't focus, deep depression. It looked exactly like withdrawal from a chemical substance.
That really drives it home. It is chemical. It's changing brain chemistry. But how? What are the specific tricks they're using?
A big one is the variable reward schedule. Think about a slot machine in Vegas.
Okay.
You pull the lever. Sometimes you win a little, sometimes nothing, sometimes maybe a jackpot. The key is it's unpredictable. You know a reward might come, but you don't know when.
And that uncertainty keeps you pulling the lever.
Exactly. That variability, that intermittent reinforcement is incredibly addictive. In games, this translates to things like random loot drops, unexpected achievements, rare items appearing. Same principle, keeps you coming back for that potential dopamine hit.
So if you got a reward every time, it would actually be less engaging.
It would become predictable, boring even. It's the anticipation that hooks you. Then you layer on things like social pressure within the game.
Guilds, teams.
And the huge one, FOMO, fear of missing out.
FOMO,
Yeah.
the great driver of modern anxiety.
Absolutely. Games constantly run limited time events, special quests, exclusive items you can only get right now. If you don't log in constantly, you miss out, you fall behind your peers, you lose status.
And that need to constantly check in, to not miss out, that transfers perfectly to social media, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which feels like the other huge digital gold rush.
Definitely. It's shifted from maybe a niche gaming issue to this pervasive cultural aspiration, especially among younger people. The dream of being a YouTuber, a TikTok star, an influencer.
And they just see the highlight reel,
Right.
right? The free stuff, the travel, the apparent glamour.
They see the tiny fraction who make it look effortless and lucrative, but the reality, the vast, vast majority of people trying to build a following, trying to monetize their online presence, they make next to nothing.
A few $100 a year.
If that, often it's zero. Or they even lose money buying equipment. But the psychological cost, that's almost universal, whether you succeed or not.
The sheer performance aspect must be exhausting. I remember reading about a travel blogger. She had a complete breakdown.
Yeah.
Because she realized she hadn't actually enjoyed a single trip in years. Every single moment, every sunset, every meal was instantly filtered through. How do I shoot this? What's the caption? Will this get engagement? How can I monetize this?
Wow. So your entire life becomes content. There's no off switch. Your authentic self just gets buried under this constant need to perform, to curate.
And the pressure is immense. We also heard about a friend who wanted to be a fitness influencer, looked the part, knew her stuff, quit after 6 months. Not because she wasn't dedicated, but because the constant pressure to maintain this image of physical perfection, coupled with the absolute barrage of nasty anonymous comments, it just destroyed her self-esteem.
That's brutal. And even for the ones who do achieve some level of financial success, they often find themselves trapped.
No.
They hit what some call the digital golden handcuffs. If that influencer income, which is often unstable and dependent on fickle algorithms and audience trends, becomes their only income, they can't leave.
Even if it's making them miserable.
Even if it's actively harming their mental health. The fear of losing that income, of having no safety net, keeps them chained to the platform, to the performance. It's a really tough spot.
So whether it's gaming or influencing, it's tapping into these same core psychological vulnerabilities?
Absolutely. The same levers.
Yeah.
Intermittent rewards, social pressure, FOMO, the dopamine hit of validation. And these exact same mechanisms are at play when we shift to something seemingly more mundane, like online shopping.
The endless scroll of online stores. That convenience is just lethal for the wallet.
It really is. The process is designed for addiction. You get the instant gratification of finding something, the algorithmic recommendations constantly feeding you things you might like.
People who bought this also bought.
Yeah.
And knows you so well.
And then the killer feature, one-click purchase.
Oh, yeah. Dangerous.
It completely removes the friction, the psychological pain point of actually handing over cash or even typing in your card details. It feels abstract, not like real money.
Until the credit card bill arrives.
Exactly. And the cycle completes. You get the dopamine hit from the purchase, then the anticipation of the package arriving.
Whoa.
All fueled by the platform's convenience, which itself is fueled by the immense amount of data they have on you.
Okay, so let's talk about that data. Because the convenience of one-click shopping or perfectly tailored news feeds or relevant ads, it comes at a very specific price, doesn't it? Our privacy.
It absolutely does. And the targeted ads are getting so spookily accurate now. I think everyone's had that moment where they think, hang on, was my phone actually listening to me? I was just talking about needing new running shoes.
Right. It feels like eavesdropping sometimes.
And while there have been cases of glitches or specific apps overstepping, the much bigger, more systematic truth is actually, well, almost more disturbing.
How so?
They generally don't need to listen to your microphone. The sheer volume and granularity of data they collect passively is enough.
What kind of data are we talking about? Beyond just like search history.
Oh, way beyond. Your clicks, obviously. But also how long you hover over an image without clicking. The pattern of your scrolling speed. Your location data. Constantly. The other apps you use. The metadata from your photos. Even how you hold your phone or the speed at which you type.
Wow. That detailed.
It builds an incredibly detailed profile. They can infer your interests, your habits, your relationships, your mood, your political leanings, your financial situation, often with startling accuracy. They can predict what you'll want or need, potentially, before you even realize it.
So it's less about listening and more about predicting based on a massive mosaic of tiny data points.
Exactly. They can run correlations across millions of users. They know, for instance, that people who suddenly start buying unscented lotion and certain vitamin supplements are highly likely to be pregnant, maybe even before they've told their closest friends.
That's unsettling, that they know us potentially better than we know ourselves.
It's the fundamental trade-off, isn't it? We trade this deep, intimate self-knowledge for convenience and free services, and we formalize this trade every time we click accept.
The terms and conditions. The longest document nobody ever reads.
And they're designed not to be read. Pages and pages of dense legalese. It's completely opaque. The whole system relies on us just clicking, yeah, whatever, to get to the app or service.
We're essentially signing these incredibly broad, vague contracts, giving them license to monitor and monetize our behavior in ways we don't even understand.
Pretty much. A blank check with our personal data. And this constant awareness, even subconscious, that we're being tracked, analyzed, categorized, it must affect how we behave online, right? It leads to this idea of the fractured digital self.
Yeah, the different personas we have to maintain. This came up a lot in the research.
It's exhausting. You've got your super professional, buttoned-up self on LinkedIn. Then maybe your carefully curated, aesthetically pleasing, best life self on Instagram.
Right. Only the good bits. Filtered.
Then maybe a more casual or authentic-seeming self on Facebook for family and older friends. But even that's usually a performance, isn't it?
Totally. It's never the whole you.
Yeah.
And juggling all these different versions, it creates this constant low-level stress, this cognitive dissonance.
One researcher we read called it digital drag. I love that term.
Digital drag.
Yeah.
Like performing in costume.
Exactly. The idea that we're all, to some degree, performing characters online. We're filtering, editing, branding ourselves constantly. We're always on stage.
And that performance takes energy. Real energy. Think about the pressure to always look happy, successful, or attractive online. It's unsustainable.
It really is. And this burden seems to land differently depending on your generation, doesn't it? This whole digital natives versus digital immigrants idea.
Yeah, let's unpack that. So digital immigrants,
Yeah.
generally older adults who didn't grow up with the internet being ubiquitous.
Right. They often lack the inherent skepticism, the built-in filter that younger generations might have developed. They're potentially more vulnerable to misinformation, phishing scams, fake news.
Like the example of the listener's mom who clicks on every "which Disney princess are you" quiz.
Exactly. Or believes every alarming headline shared on social media without checking the source. And it's not just about scams, it's about access. As society moves, essential services, online banking, booking doctor's appointments, government forms.
If you're not comfortable or skilled online, you're effectively locked out.
It becomes a real form of discrimination, creating huge barriers for people who might need those services the most.
Okay, so that's the vulnerability of the immigrants. What about the natives? The kids who grew up with smartphones in their hands?
Well, they're tech savvy, obviously. They know how to use the tools. But they're immersed from a very early age in this incredibly high-pressure digital social environment.
Constant comparison culture.
Cyberbullying, the pressure to perform that digital drag we talked about, the need for validation through likes and follows. They're navigating all of this right when their sense of self is still forming and most vulnerable.
So fluent with the tech, but maybe not equipped emotionally or developmentally for the psychological battlefield it creates.
That's a good way to put it. Both groups face significant challenges, just different kinds. And ultimately, these pressures, this constant engagement, it takes a toll. Not just mentally, but physically too.
Yeah, we hear a lot about the anxiety and depression linked to excessive screen time, but the physical costs often get overlooked, don't they?
They really do, but they are becoming incredibly widespread, almost epidemic, you could say. Let's start with posture. Just think about how we hold our phones.
Head down, shoulders slumped forward.
Exactly. Chiropractors and physical therapists are reporting a massive surge in patients with what they're now calling tech neck.
Tech neck? Okay. What does that actually mean physically?
Well, your head weighs roughly 10 to 12 pounds, right? But when you tilt it forward to look down at a screen, the effective weight on your cervical spine, your neck, increases dramatically.
How dramatically?
At just a 15-degree forward tilt, it's like having a 27-pound head. At 45 degrees, which is pretty common for scrolling, it can be close to 50 pounds of pressure on your neck.
50 pounds? Wow. That's like carrying a small child around on your neck muscles.
For hours every day, the cumulative strain is immense. It leads to chronic pain, muscle imbalances, headaches, and potentially long-term degeneration of the spine.
That's actually shocking when you visualize it like that. And it's not just our necks, is it? What about our eyes? And sleep.
Big impacts there too. Constant close-up focus leads to eye strain, dryness, headaches, and then there's the blue light issue.
Ah, yes, blue light. We're told it's bad before bed.
It really is. The specific wavelengths of blue light emitted by screens are particularly effective at suppressing the production of melatonin, the hormone that regulates our sleep-wake cycles.
So scrolling in bed isn't just keeping our minds active.
It's actively telling your brain, nope, not time for sleep yet. It messes with your circadian rhythm, making it harder to fall asleep, reducing sleep quality, turning that relaxing bedtime scroll into basically an anti-sleep ritual.
We're literally training ourselves not to sleep properly. Okay, so physical health is taking a hit. But let's go back to the mental side. Beyond anxiety and depression, what about our ability to actually think? Our attention spans?
This is arguably one of the most profound impacts. Our attention spans have measurably, significantly decreased in the digital age. We're constantly conditioning our brains to crave novelty, instant gratification, and rapid shifts in focus.
Like training a muscle, but in reverse. Training it not to focus.
In a way, yes. It can manifest as symptoms that mimic ADHD difficulty, concentrating on a single task for extended periods, feeling restless, needing constant external stimulation.
And the whole digital ecosystem encourages this, right?
Yeah.
The algorithms prioritize engagement above all else.
Absolutely. Nuanced, complex, slow-burn content doesn't usually generate quick clicks, likes, or shares. Sensationalism, outrage, simple emotional hits, that's what gets rewarded by the algorithms.
So clickbait beats thoughtful analysis. Short, punchy videos beat documentaries.
Exactly. We're being trained for short-form content, reels, TikToks, shorts. Our brains get used to that rapid-fire stimulation, making it feel genuinely effortful, almost painful, to sit down and read a book for an hour, or watch a slow-paced film, or have a long, focused conversation.
We're becoming addicted to the stimulus itself, which leads to a worrying thought. If we're constantly consuming this fire hose of information and stimulus, what happens to our ability to create, to have original thoughts?
That's the deep paradox, isn't it? We have these incredible technological tools for creation at our fingertips. But the very act of constant consumption, driven by the platforms, might actually be smothering original thought.
How does that work? Doesn't more information lead to more ideas?
Not necessarily. Original ideas often come from connecting disparate concepts, from letting the mind wander, from incubation, and that often happens in moments of, well, boredom.
Boredom. We seem to have engineered boredom out of existence.
We have. The moment there's a lull, waiting in line, commuting, even just a quiet moment at home, we pull out the phone. We fill every empty space with external input. But boredom, historically, was the engine of creativity. It forced your brain to generate its own stimulation, to make novel connections.
So we need to actively reclaim that mental white space. I remember reading about a practical technique an artist friend used, something called input fasts.
Yes, an input fast. It's basically a self-imposed digital detox, but specifically focused on consumption. For a set period, maybe a week, maybe longer, you consciously decide not to consume any non-essential content.
So no social media, no news scrolling, no streaming shows, no podcasts even.
Exactly, just stopping the inflow. The artist described the first few days as absolute hell, like withdrawal, restless, anxious, craving the dopamine hit.
Sounds tough, but what was the payoff?
After that initial hump, she reported this incredible surge of clarity. Original ideas started bubbling up. She felt more present, more able to focus on her own work. It was like clearing out the mental clutter to make space for her own thoughts.
Creating a vacuum so your own creativity can rush in.
That's a great way to put it. If we don't actively carve out and protect that mental space, the endless stream of external input will just completely colonize it.
And this colonization isn't just happening in our heads. It's fundamentally changing the structures of our lives, blurring boundaries that used to be clear. Remote work is a prime example.
Oh, absolutely. Technology enabled remote work, which was, a lifesaver for many during the pandemic. Huge benefits in terms of flexibility.
Right.
But it also completely dissolved the physical and temporal boundaries between work and home life for a lot of people.
Yeah, that quote we saw from someone's brother. I work from home, which means I never leave the office.
That sums it up perfectly. When your living room is your office and your boss knows you could technically answer an email or a Slack message at 9 p.m., the expectation shifts. You feel like you have to be always available.
The pressure is immense.
Yeah.
And the burnout is real.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which is why setting deliberate, even artificial boundaries is no longer a nice to have. It's crucial for survival in this environment.
So what kind of boundaries are we talking about? What do the sources suggest works?
Well, first, having a dedicated workspace, if possible, even if it's just a corner, somewhere you can physically leave at the end of the workday.
I rate that separation.
Exactly. Second, being really strict about notifications, turning them off outside work hours, setting clear expectations about response times.
Okay, makes sense.
And the most sort of extreme, but maybe most effective strategy mentioned was using 2 separate phones.
2 phones, like a burner phone.
Sort of. One phone strictly for work, which gets turned off completely and put away, maybe in a drawer at, say, 5 or 6 p.m., and a separate phone for your personal life.
That creates a very clear physical disconnect.
Total disconnection. It forces the boundary. Okay, shifting gears slightly, let's look at education. Another area massively reshaped by tech.
Yeah, the promise was huge, right? Democratizing education. Anyone with an internet connection can learn practically anything from top universities via MOOCs, massive open online courses.
The access is incredible, truly revolutionary. You can learn coding, history, physics, whatever, often for free or very low cost.
But there's a catch, isn't there?
There's a huge catch: self-discipline. The completion rates for most MOOCs are actually shockingly low.
Really? How low?
Often in single digits, maybe around 10-15% at best for many courses. People sign up with great intentions, watch the first couple of videos, and then life gets in the way and they just drift off.
So having the information available isn't enough. Why do people struggle to finish?
It seems to come down to structure and accountability. We're social beings, we respond to deadlines, peer pressure, the feeling of being part of a cohort.
The human element.
Exactly. The research suggests that the MOOCs, or online courses with higher completion rates, are often the ones that incorporate some kind of human interaction, required group projects, scheduled Q&A sessions with instructors, accountability partners, real deadlines with consequences.
So maybe a hybrid model is the sweet spot. Self-paced learning combined with structured human check-ins.
That seems to be where things are heading. You need both the flexibility of online access and the structure of traditional learning. But this reliance on digital platforms for education, for work, for basic services, it brings us back to a really serious systemic issue.
The digital divide.
Yes, the gap between those who have access to technology and the skills to use it and those who don't. And this isn't just about convenience, it's becoming a fundamental equity issue.
How so? Explain that discrimination aspect again.
Well, as society increasingly just assumes everyone is online and digitally literate, essential services are moving online only. Think about applying for jobs, accessing government benefits, paying bills, booking healthcare appointments.
Even just participating in community life sometimes requires being on specific platforms.
Right. And if you're older or lower income, or live in a rural area with poor connectivity, or have a disability that makes using standard tech difficult, you are increasingly shut out.
And ironically, these are often the populations who rely most heavily on those very services they're being excluded from.
Exactly. It creates this vicious cycle. When bank branches close in your neighborhood and you're told to just use the app, but you don't have a smartphone or reliable internet, or you simply don't know how, what are you supposed to do? It's functional discrimination.
It really highlights the need for support systems. But motivation matters too, right? We saw that positive example.
Yeah, the 78-year-old grandmother who became an Instagram pro.
What was her story again?
Her grandkids lived overseas, and Instagram was the main way they shared photos and updates.
Yeah.
So her motivation connecting with family was incredibly strong. She learned how to use it, navigate it, engage with it because she had a powerful reason to.
That's key. It shows it's not just about age, it's about motivation. And, crucially, having support. Maybe family helped her, or maybe she took a class.
Which underscores the importance of things like free digital literacy classes offered by libraries or community centers. We can't just throw the technology out there and expect everyone to adapt seamlessly. We need to build bridges across that divide.
Okay, so we've talked about the immediate impacts on individuals and society. Let's zoom out a bit now and think about some of the bigger, maybe less obvious long-term consequences. Starting with something most of us probably never consider. The environmental footprint of all this digital activity.
Yeah, it's largely invisible, isn't it? We don't see smokestacks coming out of our emails or video streams, but the internet runs on physical infrastructure. Massive data centers filled with servers that consume enormous amounts of electricity.
And it's not just powering the servers, right? It's cooling them too.
Exactly. These server farms generate immense heat, and keeping them cool often requires vast amounts of water, which can put a significant strain on local water resources, especially as many are built in already water-stressed areas.
So every search query, every file saved to the cloud, every cat video watched,
Yeah.
it all adds up to a real-world energy and resource cost.
It does, and some activities are incredibly energy intensive. Think about things like cryptocurrency mining, which uses complex calculations requiring huge amounts of processing power. Some estimates suggest the Bitcoin network alone consumes as much electricity as entire countries.
Wow. And this ties into something you mentioned earlier, digital hoarding.
Yes. Because digital storage seems cheap and virtually infinite, we tend to keep everything. Every email we've ever received since 2005, thousands of blurry photos, duplicate files, documents we'll never look at again.
To keep it just in case.
Right. But that just-in-case mentality, that digital clutter, has a real ongoing environmental cost. Every single file stored, even if dormant, resides on a server somewhere that needs constant power and cooling. Our collective digital laziness is contributing to energy demand.
It's a strange disconnect. We worry about plastic straws, but ignore the terabytes of useless data we're paying to keep powered up indefinitely.
It's a perfect example of cognitive dissonance. Okay, another long-term implication, and this one's maybe a bit morbid but increasingly urgent. Digital legacy.
What happens to all our online stuff when we die? Our profiles, photos, messages, accounts?
It's a huge, messy, largely unaddressed question. Some experts predict that within a few decades, platforms like Facebook could actually have more profiles of deceased users than living ones.
Wow. So the internet becomes this vast digital graveyard filled with digital ghosts.
Essentially, yes. And it completely changes how we experience grief and remembrance. It's no longer necessarily private or finite.
Like the story we heard about the friend whose mother passed away years ago, but people still post birthday messages and memories on her Facebook wall every year.
Exactly. It creates this persistent, public, ongoing memorial, which can be comforting for some, perhaps, but also complex. And then there are the purely practical problems.
Like getting access to accounts.
Yes. Families often find themselves locked out of precious photos, videos, or important documents stored in a deceased loved one's cloud account because they don't have the password. Or worse, accounts get hacked or misused after the person is gone because they weren't properly secured or closed.
So, alongside planning a traditional will, people now need a digital will.
It's becoming essential. Something that lists your important accounts, passwords, stored securely, obviously, and your wishes for what should happen to them. Who should manage your digital assets? Should profiles be memorialized or deleted? We're lagging behind legally and culturally in dealing with this. And one more big picture point. We have to remember that technology isn't culturally neutral. It doesn't just appear out of nowhere.
What do you mean by that?
Well, a huge amount of the technology shaping the globe originates from a specific cultural context, predominantly Silicon Valley in the US. And the design choices, the assumptions baked into these platforms, reflect that specific worldview.
And that might not translate perfectly everywhere else.
Exactly. It can create friction.
Yeah.
For example, look at how different cultures approach communication. In many parts of Africa or Asia, mobile-first technology leapfrogged desktop computing, leading to different usage patterns. In China, an all-encompassing super app like WeChat dominates in a way that has no real equivalent in the West.
Communication styles differ too, right? Text versus video calls, formality levels.
All of that. And when platforms designed with primarily Western assumptions about privacy, social interaction, or content moderation expand globally, they run into major challenges.
Like the differences in data privacy laws.
Perfect example. Europe's GDPR reflects a philosophy that individuals own their data and consent must be explicit, opt-in. The US model has traditionally been more opt-out. You trade your data for services unless you actively try to stop them.
Which leads to those annoying cookie banners everywhere when you browse from Europe.
Most people still just click accept all on anyway, arguably defeating the purpose because the design nudges you towards compliance rather than genuine informed choice. It shows how deeply ingrained cultural assumptions are in the tech itself.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty complex picture. Engineered addiction, privacy erosion, physical and mental tolls, societal divides. Feels a bit overwhelming. How do we even begin to find balance?
Well, the struggle is real and it's recognized. Look at the rise of the whole digital wellness or digital addiction recovery industry.
Right. Detox retreats, apps designed to limit your use of other apps, digital Sabbath movements.
The irony is thick, isn't it? Using tech to solve problems created by tech. but it highlights a genuine need. People are feeling overwhelmed and are actively seeking ways to regain control.
Because, as we said at the start, it's not just about individual willpower. We're fighting systems deliberately designed to hook us.
Exactly. So regaining control requires conscious effort. Some people talk about developing digital fitness.
Digital fitness. Like going to the mental gym.
Sort of. If our brains have been rewired by constant scrolling and instant gratification, we need to actively train them back towards deeper focus. That means deliberately choosing longer, slower, more complex forms of engagement.
So making the conscious choice to read a book instead of scrolling social media, or have a long, uninterrupted conversation instead of multitasking with notifications.
Precisely. It's like strengthening an atrophied muscle. It might feel hard or even boring at first because your brain is craving that quick dopamine hit, but over time you rebuild that capacity for sustained attention.
And this ties into the idea of taking structured breaks, like the digital Sabbath you mentioned.
Yeah, the value of completely disconnecting, even for just 24 hours a week, can be immense. We heard from someone who did a full 30-day digital detox.
What was their experience?
They described the first week as absolute agony. Withdrawal symptoms, intense boredom, feeling completely disconnected and anxious.
Sounds rough. Did it get better?
Dramatically. After that initial phase, they reported feeling incredibly present, calm, more creative, sleeping better, like a mental reset. They felt more connected to the real world and the people around them.
But here's the perennial problem, the bind we're all in.
Yeah.
Can you really opt out completely?
That's the difficulty. So much of modern life work, school, banking, social connections, even essential services requires some level of digital participation. Completely opting out risks isolation and marginalization.
So individual action like digital fitness or Sabbaths is important, but probably not enough on its own.
It needs to be coupled with systemic changes. We need collective action and potentially even regulation. For example, look at the right to disconnect laws that some countries like France have implemented.
What do those laws do?
They basically make it illegal for employers to require employees to check or respond to emails or work messages outside of their defined working hours. It protects non-work time.
That creates a structural support for boundaries. It's not just on the individual to push back anymore.
Exactly. It helps foster a culture where disconnection and rest are valued, not seen as slacking off. But even as we grapple with current tech, the next wave is already building, and the pace is just relentless.
You mean things like VR and AR, virtual and augmented reality?
Yeah. The technology is getting better and more immersive incredibly quickly. And if we already struggle to disconnect from a small screen in our pocket, what happens when virtual reality becomes truly compelling, maybe even preferable to some aspects of physical reality?
The risk of people just checking out of the real world, spending more and more time in virtual spaces. It sounds like science fiction, but maybe it's not that far off.
It's a serious concern. Could it become a kind of high-tech bread and circuses, a sophisticated distraction machine, while real-world problems continue to mount? We need to think critically about this now.
And that brings us back to the core issue. Technology is not neutral. It shapes us, it shapes society. The algorithms aren't just recommending products, they're influencing our opinions, our emotions.
And they've demonstrably contributed to polarization. Echo chambers, filter bubbles. These aren't accidents. They're often the result of algorithms optimizing for engagement. And extreme, emotionally charged content tends to get the most engagement.
Which amplifies division and makes reasoned public discourse harder and harder.
It actively degrades it. And the biggest disruptor, the one happening right now, is artificial intelligence.
AI.
Yeah.
Transforming industries overnight, it seems. Writing code, creating art, drafting documents. Where does that leave humans?
That is the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it? If AI can increasingly handle complex, analytical, and even creative tasks, what becomes uniquely human? What's our value add?
Maybe the softer skills. Emotion, empathy, genuine connection, critical thinking outside the algorithm, ethical judgment.
That seems to be the consensus emerging. We need to double down on the things machines can't easily replicate. But the speed of this change? It's unprecedented.
Previous technological revolutions unfolded over generations, giving society time to adapt culturally, legally, ethically.
Exactly. Now, we don't have generations. We might have a decade. Maybe less for some shifts. The pace itself is the challenge.
It forces us into a position where we have to be incredibly intentional, incredibly critical about the role we want technology to play. Are we shaping it, or is it shaking us?
We have to constantly ask that question. Because the default path seems to be passive consumption, letting the systems designed to capture our attention do just that. Hashtag outro.
Well, this has certainly been a deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from the deliberate engineering of addictive loops in apps and games
To the hidden costs impacting our privacy, our mental and physical health, even our capacity for original thought.
We looked at how it's restructuring society, blurring work-life boundaries, creating digital divides.
And the long-term environmental and legacy issues we're only just starting to grapple with. Plus, the future implications of AI and immersive tech.
But we don't want to leave you feeling completely doomed. It's crucial to remember that technology is also a powerful tool for good.
Absolutely. Think about the pandemic. Technology was a lifeline for connection, education, remote work, even telehealth. Its potential, when used purposefully, is immense.
Which brings us back to the central insight, the core takeaway from all this research. Our attention is now, arguably, our most valuable and most finite resource.
That's it. Every minute you spend scrolling, clicking, consuming, you are trading that finite attention.
So the question we all need to keep asking ourselves constantly with every interaction we have with the screen is this.
Am I getting a fair trade?
Is the value you're receiving, the information, the entertainment, the connection worth the attention, the time, the mental energy, and the personal data you're giving up in exchange?
Because we are operating within systems explicitly designed to capture and monetize that attention. It's the default setting.
The profound choice we face in every moment is whether to remain a passive consumer swept along by the current, or to become an active, critical participant. Someone who demands technology that genuinely enhances human life, fosters connection, and serves humanity, not just exploits its attention for profit.
How can you, through your choices, start to shape that demand? Use the tools intentionally. Be mindful. Keep questioning. Keep learning.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.